I don't need a spreadsheet. I don't need anything. This is my underwriting right here. On a $5 million deal, all I want to know is cash in, cash out. The team behind us does 62 deals every single month. And it's not the deals that they do that I love, it's actually the deals that they don't do. The reality is not every real estate deal is a deal. We have to look at hundreds of deals every single day in order for us to buy one. The deals that we don't do actually save us from 2 years of turmoil, legal fees, evictions, all sorts of problems. And so today in this video, we're going to be talking about how I saved somebody from an atrocious deal. We're going to be breaking down a whiteboard video in front of a live audience. And this is actually only a short version of this video. If you want to see the whole video, click the link down in the description below. But in the meantime, enjoy the video. I think before you understand creative finance, you look at this deal and you go, oh yeah, this is a deal. $5 million. This is how a traditional investor looks at it. They go, okay, I'm going to bring $1.5 million to the table. That's a little bit less than 30%. A little bit less than 30%. The problem is what people want to do is they want to see a big spreadsheet before they say yes or no. I'm not even going to look at a spreadsheet. Rule number one, spreadsheets are stupid because it doesn't get you to the heart of the problem, doesn't get you the heart of like what's really going on here. Did you see how quickly I asked, well, what's it bringing in? 54,000 gross. Okay. What's my DSCR loan? 28,172. Okay. What goes to your mind when you start looking at, oh, 54,000? It's bringing in $54,000 now. And my cost of the loan is 28,172. What pops in your mind? Not much left after what? What are the things that you got to do? One, the number one thing you got to consider is cost of the capital. And this is where nobody pays attention. Are sitting here going, yeah, I'm willing to put $1.5 million in a deal and not consider the fact that that thing has a cost of capital. Well, it's my money, Pace. It doesn't cost me money. Oh, it doesn't. Does your $1.5 million, is it not currently being eroded away by the federal government and inflation? No matter where it goes, you need to consider that money needs to be making you at least 5 to 7% to break even, correct? So when you go sink this $1.5 million into a deal and you don't even consider that, your money is already losing you money. No, Pace, the deal cash flows. Okay, but that's why you're boring. Because if this is where you think your money should be made and your money should be plugged in, then you don't have any other opportunities. I can take that same $1.5 million and allocate it into my lending business or my title business or something else, and my returns are so much higher. Why would I ever put my money into this deal? Okay, so cost of capital, if I taught you nothing else on this, that's it. My minimum cost of capital I charge is 12% to myself. Why? Because if I have $1.5 million, could I go and deploy $1.5 million pretty easily into to fix and flippers at 12%? So is there not a 12% cost of capital minimum? Like, do you have to be a rocket scientist to deploy $1.5 million on fix and flips and get 12%? Then why would I put $1.5 million into this stupid deal and not at least make 7 to cover inflation? So even if these guys are not considering it as 12%, don't you think they should at least consider it at 7%? Hell, I could put that in the stock market and get 7%. Like, what am I doing putting money into a deal and not considering my cost of capital? Isn't it insane that people don't think this way? And there's going to be an old fuddy-duddy on this YouTube video that's going to say, oh, Pace, the things you know stuff. No, I'm not as boring as they are. So cost of capital is the first thing that pops into my mind. I'm like, oh, $1.5 million. I already on this 54,000 gross. The first thing I take out before I even take out the loan that I have to go get a loan for $3.5 million from a DSCR lender, right? That's the 28,000 here. First thing I take into consideration is my 12% on my 1.5. So I already know, here, let's do the math. I bring in $54,000 in gross income. Why do we call it gross? Because it makes you want to throw up. That's gross money. I don't want that money. That's not my money. It's gross. Ew. Then I'm going to take out my cost of capital, which is $15,000 is my cost of. Now, one of the reasons why cost of capital is such an important thing to consider is because I look at every deal with 12%. Why? Because if I can make it work with 12%, that means I can bring a private money lender in on every one of my deals I say yes to. But if I'm trying to squeeze a deal because I can't afford to pay a private money lender, then why would I put my money where I wouldn't put a private money lender's money? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you treasure your money less important than a private money lender? Yes or no? Yes, it's your money. So cost of capital is $15,000. The next thing I'm going to take out of there is my payment, right? What'd they say? $28,000. What was it? 172 is the DSCR loan. This isn't looking too good already. Guess what? Guess what they never tell you when you get a DSCR loan? Oh, you got taxes and insurance. Okay, taxes and insurance. Okay, I don't know what that is, but you have 66 homes, guys. You think maybe your taxes and insurance are probably going to be somewhere around 12 grand? Do me a favor, Richard. Your Android has a calculator, right? Do 66,000 times $200. Okay, 13. Okay, so what this is $13,000 a month. I'm throwing $100 on tax and $100 on insurance just as a blanket number. 13,000 bucks a month. Is this a good deal? So we're already at 15,000, 13,000. Guys, we're already losing. What the freak? Yeah. And guess what we haven't considered? So we're already losing money. Okay, what have we not considered? Management and vacancy. So management's going to be what? Let's just say for a single family property, let's say it's 8% because if I give a property management company all of my properties, they'd probably give me let's go 7%. Okay, what's 7% of 54,000, guys? Okay, another $3,780 in management. Then the next one that they weren't considering is vacancy and repairs. Just kind of give a ballpark figure. I'm going to say it's probably about 15% for vacancy plus repairs, ongoing repairs. So what's 15% of 54,000? 8,100? Okay, but guys, I thought Section 8 was like the greatest thing on the planet Earth. Okay, I could buy 66 Section 8s right now, decent price. Why do I know this is a decent price? Is because for the purchase price, it's bringing in over 1%. Okay, does this look like a good deal for us? Okay, what if we're stupid and we don't consider our money has a cost of capital? Is it now a deal? It's not. I don't think so. Well, let's do this. Do me a favor, Richard. Add up 8,100, 3,700, 3,780, 13,000, and 28,000. How much? Just this. Just tell me this.
53,000.
Okay, hold on, guys. You're telling me even if I am an idiot and I don't consider my money is actual money, I'm making $1,000 a month. Anybody want to go buy 66 properties to make $1,000 a month after putting $1.5 million in? Well, Pace, in 2 years, you'll increase the rent to $80,000. Now, what do we know about real estate investors is they try and paint a romantic picture. Why did I write this down? Amazing purchase price, right? Rent increase, like they're trying to sell me on the deal, right? So when people sell you on a deal, do they paint a rosier picture than what is actually expected? Okay, so I already know that this 80,000, do I need a spreadsheet to tell me when somebody's lying? Or maybe when they buffer it a little bit more than they should. This is probably 70,000, okay? But let's just say it's 80,000. That's $26,000 difference. Cool. Let's say that now over 2 years, I am now cash flowing $26,000 extra. This now becomes a deal. It becomes a deal even if I had my 1.5 million in there. So why wouldn't I do this? Put the 1.5 million in, Pace. Just do it. Why wouldn't I do this? If I know I can make $26,000 a month in cash flow, why would I not do it? How much money could I turn my 1.5 million into?
You might as well just go to a bank. It's the same thing.
Well, that's what I'm doing. It actually is a bank. But the difference is, why don't I just go pick my own properties? I'll go buy my own properties, right? So here's my thought. My thought is people forget about cost of capital, but my first thing that comes to my mind is cost of capital. Second thing that comes into my mind is all the other expenses, right? Which were these. We didn't even talk about these. I brought these up, but they were like, oh, we put it at 5%. Bro, you're gonna get people to manage Section 8 rentals at 5%? Vacancy repairs, oh yeah, 10%. If they looked at this number and they calculated this, am I lying on any of this stuff, by the way? So why did they think this is a great deal? Why? I'm making 1,000, by the way, there is no answer to that question. You think that I'm gonna give you the answer? There is no answer, other than they have deal euphoria or deal fever. This is what happens with people all the time. They get excited about one deal, they get obsessed with it, and they convince themselves that it's a deal. So how do we make this a deal? The purchase price is not important to me, right? This $5 million purchase price, is that the important thing? No. This is, again, what stupid traditional investors do, is they value the purchase price more than they value the terms. I'll even pay you an extra 100 grand, but don't make me put $1.5 million in the deal. That's crazy. So I'll give you the 5 million, but here's what I want to do. I want you to sell or carry that in the second lien position at 5% interest. So now my $1.5 million loan isn't $15,000. My $1.5 million loan is probably more like $8,000. So I got a loan, right? I got a loan to the seller at 8%, at $8,000 a month, a loan with the bank at $28,000 a month. And now how much am I making? I'm not making $1,000 a month. I'm netting $8,000 a month out of the gate. Only if the seller. Now, would I do all this work for $8,000 a month? What if I have no money in the deal? If I have no money in the deal, would I do all this work for $8,000? Yes. because now the value I'm bringing to the deal is my time, energy, and effort, not my money and my time, energy, and effort. Remove my money from it, it makes it worth my time, right? So I look at this, I go, let's do a Morby method. And I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna have a hard time selling this deal, and they're gonna have to come back to the table, and they're either gonna have to cancel or they're gonna have to come back to me. Would I do this deal? Yes, I would do the deal. Now, here's what kind of sucks about being in a power position that I'm in. Do I even know any of these addresses? So in their mind, the people who are working and structuring the deal are like, oh, Pace is gonna buy our deal if we restructure it. No, I'm gonna look at your deal if you restructure it. So I won't even go to a spreadsheet. I won't even look at the address. I won't even look at the banking. I won't look at the P&L. I will not look at anything unless my time, energy, and effort is the value I provide to the table, not my capital. Now, am I bringing money to the table? Yes. It's called a DSCR loan. So will I have to use my credit here? Okay, great. So did the seller get cash up front? Yeah, the seller is going to get $3.5 million from a loan I acquire, and the seller is going to do $1.5 million in a second seller note position. So did the seller get what they wanted in the beginning? Purchase price plus a big chunk of cash? They don't need $5 million right now. They don't even have a deal to invest in. Why do they want the $5 million? Now you start wondering, why are you not willing to carry in second lien position if you're getting the number? What's wrong with these deals that you just want to get rid of them? Do I need a spreadsheet to suss that out? This is what's wrong with so many real estate investors. They look, anybody feel like you've maybe overanalyzed spreadsheets before? Does this just annihilate your whole thought process? Like, why do I need to, I have not looked at the addresses. He says, hey, by the way, I sent everything to you via email. Do I need any of that crap to know they've done a bad job structuring this deal? Will there be an investor for this? Yes, there will be. Why? Because somebody will say, I want the depreciation. But is the depreciation even that good? What's my depreciation? Pay attention to this. This is what's so crazy to me. Creative finance, Subto seller finance is the only way that depreciation, in my opinion, makes sense. Why? Here's why. I'm gonna put $1.5 million as a down payment to buy a $5 million property. You wanna figure out the depreciation? Who wants to figure it out? Okay, let's figure it out. Pull out your calculator. Here's what we do.
I'm new to this iPhone thing, so.
Perfect. Melanie, take 5 million. Everybody do this. It's good muscle memory. 5 million multiplied by 0.7. Okay. Why is it 0.57 or 0.7? Why? Why am I doing that?
We only depreciate the structure.
Not the land.
That's right. The IRS will not give me a tax benefit on the dirt because the dirt's already depreciated. It's dirt. It's worth nothing, right? And it won't fall apart any more than it already is. It's already dirt. Okay. So they're only going to give me $3.5 million. Now, the Democrats, in their infinite wisdom, have also taken accelerated depreciation from 100% down to 80, and next year it will be 60. So now take that number. You have 3.5 million and multiply it by 0.8. And that is now the number we're playing with. $2.8 million. How much is it? Nope, the 3.5. Okay, so guys, this is what we're doing on YouTube land. We're taking the $5 million purchase price. We're taking $1.5 million off of that for the land value because you can't depreciate land. And then we're gonna take another 20% off of the remaining number for the Democrats. So my Democrat discount of $20,000 gives me, Melanie, what's my remaining balance? What's my remaining money number? 2.8 million. Okay, so really all I have is $2.8 million out of that 5. Now we can start the math. So take the 2.8 and I want you guys to divide it by 27.5 years. Okay, so that means this year, I'm gonna put $1.5 million down to save $100,000 in taxable income. Does that sound like a good deal to anybody? Doesn't sound like a good deal to me. But what if I do a cost segregation? If I do a cost seg, I can now probably get this to like 7 times what this is right here. So let's do 101 times 7. All right, so $712,000 is what I get off my active income. Divide that now by your tax rate of 43%. So take 712 multiplied by 0.43. 712,000 times 0.43. So there we go. The real amount of money I saved is I put $1.5 million of real cash into a deal just so I could save $306,000 in actual taxable tax. Does that look like a good deal? No. What if, this is why creative finance is so good, what if all I had to do was bring $250,000 to the table to get 306? Does this now make sense? In the very least, have your seller carry the deal, the back-end balance, the 30% that the bank's asking you to put down. How do we do that deal? We bring in a transactional lender, give the bank $1.5 million for 1 day. The seller then refunds the $1.5 million back to you and creates a second lien position. You pay your private money lender back and you pay them 10 grand for funding the deal for the day, and you're in the deal, no money out of pocket. Would I do this deal, no money out of pocket, and get $306,000 this year off my taxes? Now this deal makes sense. With creative finance, this deal does not make sense because they think this is, somebody's like, oh, 30% down, and I got cash flow, and I got all these Section 8 rentals. Like, dude, I don't care about Section 8. I don't care about Airbnb. I don't care about midterm rental. I don't care what the exit strategy is. What I care about is how much money am I making? But the problem is so many people get stuck in their real estate investing journey because they're using old school methodology. Hopefully this has been helpful. This is a longer video, but it helps you understand the full context of where did the deal come from. Yes, you're going to go structure and spend all this time. Now, how can they fix this with the seller? The seller wasn't willing to negotiate. Richard, you've done a lot of deals in your life, right? Have you done deals with sellers that started out with a no, a no, a no, a no, and then boom, yes? Have you done deals where you get a contract, but then it turns out not to be a deal, so you renegotiate, and the seller says yes to the renegotiation? Yep. There you go. Why? Because time is what tells the seller that this is not a good deal. If this was an amazing purchase price, guys, would I even be looking at this deal? BlackRock, American Homes for Rent, Colony, Invitation Homes, all these big companies would have already bought this deal by now. So why am I getting a look at it? Is because I bring something to the table that they don't, which is creative structures. And so this is not a deal. And this is why people that are struggling out there in the burst strategy are like, oh, there's no good deals. No, you're trying to drive a 300-yard drive with a putter. We're playing the same game. We just have better tools. Would you go and try and compete against Tiger Woods if you only had a putter and he had a full bag of clubs? Why would you do that? That's like not using creative finance is like you're out there with your little burst strategy trying to hit a 300-yard drive. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna give you guys a full video right here of exactly how a full Subto deal works. Go watch that video, and hopefully you made it all the way to the end. If you guys made it to the end, please give us a like, a subscribe. Make a comment down below of what your favorite part of the video was so we can learn how to do better videos for you, and we'll see you in the next one. Later.